There are 4 new cubs in all, and they're quite lively. Their mother has to watch them every minute. And right now, they're not making her life easy. Just 1 cub would be enough to test any parent's patience. Tiger cubs stay with their mother until they're about 2 years old. But even under her constant care, only half of them usually make it to maturity. There's no doubt that a childhood in the wild can be dark and dangerous. The first steps of growing up are often some of the most precarious in any animal's life. For some, they are literally a leap of faith. It's spring in the forests of Eastern Europe, and safe within the hollow of a tree, a female mandarin duck is about to ask her 1-day-old ducklings to leave their nest. She leads the way. The ducklings are imprinted on their mother. Their instinct tells them to follow her. However, it's a long drop, and a few calls of encouragement are needed. Once the first ducklings land safely, the rest find their courage. They're so light and fluffy, they land with a bounce. Born to fly, their first experience of the outside world is a fearless free fall. All wait together for the last in line to make the jump. But leaving the nest was just the beginning of their adventure. Now, they must reach water. The nearest pond is quite a trek, almost a mile away. By following their mother's lead, these ducklings have passed their first test. Once in the water, they will begin learning what's good to eat and exploring their new watery world. First steps often seem to be the hardest to take. Samburu National Park in Kenya. A baby elephant has just been born. She is frail, helpless, and totally dependent on her mother. Elephants live in extended families, but while this young mother was giving birth, the rest of the herd moved on in search of food. They're only a mile away, not far by elephant standards. Unless you're trying to walk for the first time. The baby desperately needs her first drink of mother's milk. Like that of all mammals, elephant milk is full of vital nourishment and will kickstart the baby's immune system. Without it, she is vulnerable to infection and worse. She is at the point of collapse. But her mother is a first-time mom, and instead of stopping to feed her baby, she keeps searching for the family. The day is getting hotter, and the baby is at serious risk of dehydration. She needs food and a chance to cool down. Thankfully, in the rainy season, water can be found. Her mother uses the little pool to cool them off. It seems to help them both. Now, when the baby searches for milk, her mother gives her time to find it. At last, she gets her first essential nourishment. This is the lifeline she needed. Revived by a full belly, she has the energy to continue on her mother's search for the family. Elephants use low-frequency sound to communicate, sound that can travel for miles. The young mother homes in on the herd. It's a joyous reunion. The baby is finally introduced to the rest of the family, and they're all very excited to meet her. These elephants will provide security and protection throughout the years of her childhood. The extended family will also offer support to the mother as she attempts to bring up her baby. Yet, life in the wild is full of unforeseen challenges. And sometimes, despite a parent's best efforts, they can lead to a tough start in life. This female black bear is also a first-time mom. She leads her 3-month-old twin cubs out of their hibernation den in the forests of Minnesota. Bears here normally come out of hibernation in May. This year, spring has come a month early, and the weather is warm. She sets off with her cubs to look for food. But the unseasonable weather can be fickle, and winter suddenly returns, bringing Arctic winds and snow. Miles from their den, the cubs are caught in the spring storm. Their mother needs to keep them warm, but she is inexperienced and allows them to climb a tree. It's a normal reaction when a bear senses danger. But it's a bad tactic. Up here, they have no protection from the elements. They are literally freezing. Being so young, they still have only a single layer of fur. They won't grow a second layer until they hibernate in the autumn. Their small bodies just can't generate enough heat. The cold is cutting right through them. Finally, their mother seems to understand the situation and calls them down. Slowly, they make their way back to her. The mother should now hunker down, so the frozen cubs can benefit from her body heat. But instead, she moves off again, expecting them to follow. The tiny cubs find it almost impossible to walk in the deep snow. Their paws are too small and sink into the drifts. The snow is deeper than they can manage. The night draws in. After dark, the temperatures here will drop dramatically. Without their mother's warmth, these cubs won't survive the night. Morning arrives. It's been a bitterly cold night, but despite being young, the mother managed to find them a sheltered spot. She has kept the cubs warm, and thankfully, they have made it through their first trial of life. For many young animals, a wise mother is the difference between life and death. There are some environments where this is particularly true. This inhospitable land in Israel is not an easy place to live. Up here, your footing needs to be firm, and a head for heights is essential. Meet the ibex. They've made these precarious cliffs their own. But for these newborn ibex kids, this rocky wilderness makes for a nerve-wracking nursery. They spend the first few days of their life at the very top of the cliffs, relatively safe from predators who can't scale these summits. However, at less than a week old, they must leave their playtime plateaus. They will attempt their first descent of these terrifying rock walls. Their mother needs to find food. Now, the steep terrain that has kept them safe can turn treacherous. Their mother leads the way. The kids are understandably tentative, but ibex are born with remarkable feet made for just this purpose. Slowly, they pick their way down the sheer rock faces with cleft feet that spread wide, exposing rubbery pads that grip the rock. Their mother shows them the best route. She's done it hundreds of times before. Gradually, the kids start to get the hang of it. But they need to focus. One slip could be their last. They're rewarded with a lush new world where there's plenty of food and water. Here, the parents show off their balancing skills as they all browse together. But one kid has trailed behind, and she's in trouble. A fox, and he's spotted the straggler. The young ibex runs as fast as it can back up the cliff. but the fox is right on her heels. He'll be hoping for a quick kill. As the kid falters on the vertical rock face, the fox tries to gain the higher ground. Whether by instinct or by accident, the kid has found a spot so steep that only an ibex could stand there without toppling off. The fox can't make the climb down, and has no choice but to give up. The lessons learned on this morning's descent have saved the kid's life. Despite still being so young, she has outfoxed one of the canniest of predators. Mastering your terrain is a crucial part of growing up. For some, it's also a race against time. Here in the African Congo, a colony of skimmers, so called for their special feeding technique, has made these sandbanks their home. But it won't be forever. Before long, the waters here will rise, and the birds will have to move on. These young skimmers were born here, and are only a few weeks old. Before the river floods, they need to learn to fly and to catch fish, and they need to learn both skills quickly. They watch as the adults gracefully skim the water. An adult skimmer has a beak with the lower part longer than the upper. They can slice through the water at more than 30 feet a second. If their beak hits something, it'll snap shut. It's an effective and elegant technique for catching fish. The problem for youngsters is that they have to wait for the lower part of their beak to reach its full length. In the meantime, while the water is shallow and they have the sand to run on, they do their best to learn the skimming technique. It's not as easy as it looks, so they need to practice the skill. It's vital to their survival. The clock is ticking. Soon, all the sand they're using as a training ground will be gone. The annual rains in the African Congo have arrived. Very soon, these nursery sand flats will be under several feet of water. The skimmers have to move out. With their home disappearing, the time has come for the young skimmers to take to the air with the rest of the colony. Practice runs are over. It's time to test their flight skills. Childhood is coming to an end. The amount of time animals enjoy the protection of their parents varies greatly. For some, childhood can last for years. These youngsters spend much of their time playing. It might seem like only a game, but play is essential to a young animal's development. It helps with their strength, coordination, and social skills. Playing is a crucial part of learning. And the games can be a rehearsal for adult life. Back in India, 6 months have passed, and the tiger cubs are putting their play into practice and trying to hunt. They must follow their mother closely as she stalks silently through the forest. It's all about stealth. Patience and timing are crucial. The moment to pounce has to be exactly right. But one of the cubs just can't contain himself. His mother isn't pleased. She'll have to start all over again. The tiger cubs still have a lot to learn. Next to humans, orangutans have the longest of all primate childhoods. This female orang is 42 years old. Her daughter is 6, and will stay with her for at least another 2 years. But then, there is so much to understand in the treetop world of Sumatra. She has to learn to collect ants and termites. She will need to identify at least 300 edible plants and avoid the poisonous ones. Judging when fruit is ripe is essential. The young orang must also be able to judge which branches can carry her weight, and which insect nests are safe to raid. Building up her knowledge of all the resources in the rainforest is a lengthy and complex process. But it's vital training for a long, successful life in the wild. Even so, there's always time to make a friend, and supervised by a watchful parent, the chance to play. It's clear that your mother's example has a huge impact on your chance of survival. In many cases, she is your sole teacher when growing up. However, there are times when following your mom can lead you into trouble. a fast-flowing river in Kenya, full of strong currents, as well as crocodiles. Despite the dangers, this herd of elephants has to get across. The matriarch of the group leads some youngsters into the river. She knows that to reach the other side, she has to head slightly upstream into the current. Watching from the shallows is a younger group. These small calves have mothers who are far less experienced. They watch the older matriarch reach the other side safely. Then, it's their turn to brave the river. But they didn't pick up on the matriarch's technique. Almost immediately, they're in trouble, and they're in too deep to go back. If the youngsters become separated, they will easily drown. One has been overcome and is being swept downstream. The mothers try to keep hold of the young ones, but they can't contain all three. As they save one, the others get washed away. The currents are even too strong for the mothers, and they have no choice but to let their babies go. Finally, one baby manages to clamber out, but the other two are still struggling. The mothers come to help, but they have no way to lift them out. The babies are weak and terrified. Eventually, they manage to get out, to everyone's relief. What started as a lesson in life turned into a nightmare. Sometimes, it's adults who dish out the toughest lessons. These toque macaques in Sri Lanka live in large troops. They have a very complex social structure with a rigid hierarchy. If they're to make it through childhood, youngsters must fit in. Discipline is strictly maintained. All young macaques are low-ranking, and they have to learn how to show deference through a variety of gestures and facial expressions. adults don't hesitate to show who's in charge. This infant female is considered to be the lowest of the low, and she won't survive long if she doesn't learn the social conventions. The dominant male is a harsh leader. He demands respect from everyone, no matter how young. He won't tolerate any sign of insubordination. If he looks another macaque in the eye, they have to express submission by chattering their teeth. The tiny female has caught his eye, but does she know what to do? If she gets it wrong, the punishment will be severe. Just in time, she manages to chatter her teeth. There'll be many more tests in this young macaque's life, but at least she's passed her first. Getting through the early stages of childhood can certainly be daunting. As animals get older, their chances of survival inevitably increase. But different issues have to be confronted. Just as for humans, the teenage years can prove troublesome. It's a time when boundaries are tested, and tempers can fray. Mistakes are made, and some can be painful. Full of testosterone, young males all want to be the leader of the pack. They aren't always ready for independence, but act like they are. Being a teenager is stressful for everybody. In India, the tigers are now teenagers too, and their rough and tumble has turned into more aggressive play fighting. The sparring is good practice for when they leave home, and may need to fend off other tigers. For now, though, they keep their claws in. No hard feelings here. To be independent, they also need to learn to hunt their own prey. But this is proving more difficult. One of the males quietly creeps up on a deer. But he breaks cover too soon. His sister also misses her chance as the deer runs straight past her. They will just have to keep practicing. Of course, not all animals leave home. Some stay with their extended families. The size of the group can vary widely. Hippos, for example, can form small pods. Or come together in very large numbers. Predators, such as wolves, form groups or packs as a strategy for hunting. Others find safety in numbers. These Gelada baboons are old enough to leave home, but the protection of their social group trumps independence, and they stay together. Yet even within such groups, there are individuals who are meant to be different, whose fate is to leave their families. One of those can be found in the African desert. This little creature is a female naked mole rat. She has never ventured above ground before. She doesn't belong here. Nighttime in the desert can be dangerous. But tonight, she is risking her life in an attempt to fulfill her destiny. She has left the safety of her family to go in search of a mate. But with danger everywhere, will she even survive the night? Naked mole rats are one of the planet's strangest mammals. They live almost like bees. Their hive is a network of specially built tunnels underground. Their large colonies are ruled by one dominant female, catered to by many so-called workers. Only she will reproduce. However, occasionally there is a chosen offspring, a princess who will grow up pampered and not have to work. Instead, she reserves her energy for the big day when she will leave the colony behind and set out all by herself to start a new family. Alone in the desert, this princess won't survive for long. Her search to find a partner is urgent. But how will she find her prince? She follows her nose. Finally, a seductive scent draws her down to safety. She's sniffed out a partner. He too is alone and eager to start a new family in his empty burrow. Two months later, the princess has become a queen. She has had her first litter of babies and is now ready to start ruling over a new dynasty of naked mole rats. Someday, one of these little mole rats will be a chosen one. She will be the next princess, destined to leave home like her mother, to carry on the family line. The tiger cubs are fully grown and almost ready to leave home. One of the females is hunting alone. She has perfected her stealth technique.